Do you like my makeup today? I think it's cute. It's very like fairy. I was kind of going for like teenage girl in her bedrooms but make it kind of vintage vibe because I was doing the thumbnail for this video earlier and I decided to make it a little photo shoot, although most of the photos didn't turn out great, but it's fine. Also, my hair's blonde now. It's looking a bit yellow, but I'm planning on toning it a bit more, even though I tried a toner yesterday, but that didn't really work. I'm gonna be trying again, so it's fine. Don't worry about that too much. I finally got a tripod after like a year and a half of making content online, so I'm really happy about that. Anyway, my name is Annika, and today I will be explaining to you why you should document your life / why you should journal. In fact, these notes are in longhand because they are part of a journaling exercise on me reflecting why I journal and the benefits that I see from that. So I just feel like it is the most eloquent way for me to be able to explain my thoughts. So basically, I'm going to start off talking about my own experiences, and then I'm going to talk about why I think you should start journaling. And then lastly, I'm going to talk about like methods and how to stay consistent, and basically just kind of how to do it actually. Please don't mind if I keep looking down. I'm reading my own notes. Let's start with my story with journaling. I used to find it really hard to keep a diary or to write consistently. When I was younger, I used to read so many books and I wanted to become a writer so bad for multiple years. That has been replaced by different passions since then because I'm not 12 years old anymore. But I have always wanted to write. I always thought it was admirable. I always admired people who could keep journals or diaries. In fact, I remember being really little and my mum used to consistently journal, and she used to buy these beautiful golden embossed notebooks. In fact, I got her one for her birthday and I wrote about this exact thing, this exact memory in like the first page of it, because you know how you write in the first page of books sometimes when you give it to someone as a present. So I wrote about this, but I used to be mesmerized by her books as a child because they were so beautiful. I remember she had one with like golden phoenixes on it, and I think they were from like Paper Blank or something. They're quite expensive, I'm gonna be honest, considering their notebooks, but I was mesmerized by them as a child, and I used to find it really admirable that she used to write in this every day and just kind of like recount her life. And then I found out a couple years ago that she'd actually been doing this since she was like 13 or 14. I don't know if she still keeps it up. I don't think so. Well, I think she might now that I bought her that as a gift. That was kind of my first introduction into the idea of journaling, in fact. But I was never able to do it consistently. Like, I tried multiple times. I designated a notebook as my journal, and I thought it was boring. I thought it was really boring to write down everything that I did that day because I'm gonna be honest, as a child, like, I didn't do much. I didn't have money. I had school, I came home and I read my books, or I went on my phone once I was allowed to do that. Like, looking back in hindsight, I could have, because I think I just had like this warped view of journaling and keeping a diary, and I think I just didn't know how to do it or like the benefits or why you should do it. Which is why I'm making this video, because I love it so much now and I really want to share it with people. And I really want to inspire people to, start journaling. A side note, I also have recently discovered that I have huge issues with executive function and staying consistent with things, and I have just issues with routines. I used to think that I was not a person suited to routine at all, but now I've come to the realization that I actually need it desperately for me able to feel happy at all about myself. I'm like fairly sure I have ADHD. In fact, I'm getting referred to for it, but it runs in my family, so that's not too surprising. I started journaling consistently at the beginning of this year. I had done it on and off for about 2 years in a notebook that I got in my old house in Hungary, and I started journaling in there whenever I felt like it, but now I've started doing it almost every day, although I did skip a couple weeks during exams, but Let's get into why I think you should do it, because this is very important, and I feel like not many people think about this, really. Ever since I began this in earnest and like started properly journaling daily, I kept writing down all the benefits that I found within it, and all the benefits that I derived from it, basically. This video isn't specifically about journaling, not journaling in the way that I do it anyway. I'm sorry if you can hear crows outside. I need the window to be open because it's so hot. This video is more so about finding a way to document your life. The way that I choose is journaling, but you can do this in many ways, and I'll list some at the end of this video. Because I mostly journal, I will be using that as the swear to God, what are they bickering about? Anyway, you know what, you're just gonna have to put up with that. Since the method that I choose is journaling, I'm mostly going to be talking about that, and I'm going to be using that as an example, but just keep that in mind. So first benefit, it clears your head and it allows you to know yourself. Because if you think about it, your thoughts are so messy and entangled and intangible, because for instance, I don't even think in like sentences. Some people have an inner monologue, and I've never had that. I don't know why that is. So like some people have it, some people don't, and that's okay. But even so, when you write it out on a piece of paper, or when you document your thoughts, you by extension define them, and you kind of give them a tangible shape and tangible form, which allows you to look at it more objectively. It's like pinning the thought down and setting it in place. Let's imagine it's like you're an ecologist and you found a rare species of butterfly and you pin it down, obviously once it's dead, because we don't support killing animals. You spread its wings, you pin it down, and you can examine its markings, you can examine the nuance within the thought, because it has this form and because you are able to make it go still. Because your thought is now on the page and concretely written down, it allows you to reflect on that thought from a third person's perspective. And this is kind of similar to how in some meditations you kind of use this metacognition thing. I don't actually know the proper way to explain that, but as far as I'm aware, it's kind of taking a third person perspective on your thoughts to kind of distance yourself from them, because your thoughts are not you, really. You are you and your thoughts are something else. So this is just a more concrete way of doing that, because I feel like in meditation often you forget a lot of things, at least I do. I forget insights that I have, I forget the thoughts I have, even if I'm paying attention to them. Like they slip it out of my mind as soon as I'm done with the meditation. This allows you to kind of keep any ideas or revelations in mind, basically, because you have them written down and you can always go back to them. Basically, it helps you pick apart yourself and to understand yourself a lot. To a certain level, you are still the same person who thought those thoughts though, so you can't truthfully look at it from an actual third person perspective, like an actual outsider to yourself. You can't be a different person looking in, so you will be biased in your reflections. But it's kind of one step away from acting as a therapist for yourself. Through the documentation of your thoughts and yourself, or just your experiences daily, you kind of get one step closer to this true third person reflection. It allows you a better chance to be able to understand your life and your experiences, and you will remember them more by writing them down. It's a record of yourself that may even survive you, to be honest. And now you may say that it's hard for you to do that because it's hard for you to express yourself and write it down in a way that feels accurate to the emotion, which by nature cannot be explained 100%. Intangible ideas will never be able to be put down onto paper in the same way that we experience them, but I think writing and consciously choosing your words gets you one step closer to that true communication of that experience that you have had, or that emotion you have had. When you write, there's always the idea of the second person, the reader. Even if you don't expect or don't intend for your journaling or your writing to be read, it is still expression, and by nature of expression, you will find that there's a second person who reads it, the reader. And in journaling, you are the reader. Personally, I don't recommend showing your journals to anyone unless it's something that you've written about them and you think it's very important for them to know. I've done that sometimes, actually. But writing by its nature is this kind of communication, this attempt to get someone to feel exactly what you felt or to understand you, because, being a human's lonely. You're the only one who can be yourself, you're the only one who can experience what it's like to be yourself. which is why self-expression is so important, because we are social creatures and we want others to understand us. And I think a crucial step to that is understanding ourselves first, because I had a really hard time understanding myself before I started doing this. I couldn't name really traits that I had about myself on like a personality level, and I couldn't tell you why I acted the way I did, or what inspired me, or what motivated me, really. And because I now, through this reflective process, I do know more about myself, it kind of changes your perspective on life. It makes you see beauty in everything, at least it does for me. It will get you thinking about yourself and your relationship with the world around you and your relationship with others, and by extension your perspective on life will change. Your thinking will escalate more and more, and you'll learn more about yourself and these relationships until your entire worldview changes. And it's usually for the best, unless you're doing something very wrong. And you'll be filled with this curiosity and this desire and drive to know about yourself and others, and to know more, and to journal more, and to be able to understand more. And this desire to know about the self is very important, because I feel we can take inspiration from a lot of sources, but the self is always there for us to take inspiration from. Because you are gaining more knowledge, and because it is serving you, and you get to know about what you like and dislike and how you are basically as a person, you will fall in love with writing. Through writing and falling in love with writing and understanding the self, through this documentation of you, basically yourself, your experiences, you'll realize how beautiful you are and how beautiful life can be, truly, because you're writing yourself. You are on the page, basically. The way I write, I try to get as much of myself down as possible in a session, and that's a very broad thing for you to do. You can do what you did in a day, which I think is personally really boring unless I did something fun, which most of the days I don't, I'm gonna be real. But my thoughts and ideas, they're unique to me, and I've had these unique experiences, and I can explain them in a way that is unique to me because of that. And that's where this creative process comes in, because especially if you choose to write in a way that is accurate to how you feel, you will create something beautiful most of the time. You will create something that's poignant. You must keep in mind that beauty does not necessarily have to be something good. Even if you're writing down negative emotions like pain or grief or sadness, that is in and of itself beautiful if it is poignant. If it is accurately written down through a good use of language, then it will have a poignancy to it, to this second person, or to yourself, to be honest, as well. To this second person, to this reader, this hypothetical reader, which, may or may not be a real reader, that's up to you. But that poignancy is where beauty is, that emotional effect that you can have on people when you express how you felt. You can kind of manipulate someone else to feel as close to what you did as possible through language. You must remember, you'll never be able to accurately, 100% accurately depict or write down how you felt or these experiences, but that's where honing your skills and refining your writing style comes in. And I think that is kind of this attempt to reach divinity, this absolute total communication, like 100% you understand me, kind of. It's very hard for me to explain, I'm gonna be honest. I hope I'm doing a good job. I tried really hard. In addition, this beauty and this poignancy and this good writing, it will fuel the creative process within us, and it will bring us this joy and this wonder for life that, many of us lack these days. It can bring us a lust for life. I don't know if you can see that, that's what it says. And now I'm going to explain this little diagram that I drew, because I was self-aware that this would be kind of hard to explain. This is the doodle that I have down. So basically, your thoughts, they are written down and made concrete, and then you as the third person read this defined thought, or this defined experience, or this defined emotion. You read it, then you process it also in your brain, and then you are happy because you understand yourself. And who doesn't want that, really? And then because of this joy, you want to do it more, and you have a curiosity and it is a desire to know about yourself more. Then you journal more, and then you, at least I, found that I have a desire to document basically everything, all of my feelings in a journal, to glean as much info about myself as possible. While doing this, I also documented inspirations through the methods that I will be explaining. I systematically use these inspirations to boost my creativity and become my own muse. And then this is just a quick note that I added. You are unique, and you are able to express your experiences and feelings uniquely because of these unique experiences that you have had and these unique places that you have found your inspiration. This self-expression is valuable because it is unique and not because of any skill that you have in it. It is valuable for the fact that it is you, that you are using yourself as your muse, and because of that it will be unique. Also, in terms of skill, it will come with time. You learn, you reflect. I can make a different video on how to, improve your skills consciously. So, now that that's out of the way, I'm going to explain how to write and how to be consistent with it, and kind of different methods you can try, or if you don't want to write at all, just other things you can do to document your life. So first I'm going to go with the consistency route, because as I said, I have huge issues with that, and I have kind of come up with different solutions to kind of trick my executive dysfunction adult brain. So first of all, I have a planner, and I use an incredible amount of highlighters. Actually, let me show you. This is how much highlighter I use in a planner. I can do a different video about my actual organizing and planning system, because that's so well thought out. I've put so much energy into perfecting my routines and my kind of productivity recently. But a quick thing is, pick a cute one, because otherwise you're not really gonna want to write on it. And pro tip, if it doesn't seem very durable, just put some tape on it, because like the edges of this were fraying a lot after maybe like a month, and this is currently saving it from a worse fate of falling apart. Next tip, carry that same planner in your bag and stick to it, otherwise you're not, like, how can you trust yourself if you don't, if that makes sense? Train yourself to be able to trust yourself when you say you're going to do something. Also planning on doing a what's in my bag, because that's also incredibly well curated, because I've been refining everything in my life this whole year. Next tip, write as much as you want. I usually try to go for 2 pages a day, but there are other journaling methods, like I know the Artist's Way does the morning pages, which I did try for like the first couple months. That's how I started doing this daily, which is I think 3 pages of just stream of consciousness writing. I don't think that's the best for me, but I do still do that on days when I have low energy. But I do tend to stick to just 2 pages these days, because I don't have that much time, I'm gonna be honest. This takes me about half an hour, maybe less. I think you should start with 1 or 2 pages a day. If you feel called to write more or driven to write more, I feel like you should follow that. But if you don't, if you feel tired after that, don't force yourself to write more. There's no need, really. Also, another tip, find a pen that you like writing with. And this seems really stupid, but for instance, I hate ballpoint pens. I have not written more than like 1 sentence with a ballpoint pen in I think maybe 2 years. Not for me. I use the knockoff Uniball thingies. I got these on Amazon. They're great, they're gel pens, they write effortlessly. Lovely, love them. So I'm going to talk about how to actually write, because I feel like this is an issue for many people, because they hear the word journaling, and I feel like journaling is quite a vague term, because you have people who like do scrapbook or art journals, some people who just write. As I said, the morning pages is very popular as well. Some people do journal prompts. Thing is, with journal prompts, I think a lot of them are very generic, but I have some quite good recommendations. So let's get into it. It's not a stupid question. Many people don't know how to do it. I do think the morning pages is a bit too long with 3 pages of just straight writing, but I do also think it's a very good starting point, so I would say maybe try 2. It's a great starting point. As I said, I did this for maybe 4 or 5 months before adding more things to the way I journal. The first thing I did was I added prompts to the back of my journal. Like, I wrote some ones that I found compelling down. None of these are my ideas or prompts. I found them through YouTube videos or just like Pinterest, I'm gonna be honest, but Pinterest has a lot of really boring ones, so I don't write that down because some things you already do know about yourself because they're just common sense. That's different for every person, honestly. If you feel like you wouldn't get anything out of exploring the prompt, then don't put it in there. But I do think having a list is good. What I tend to do on a day when I have more energy is I write 1 page of just my thoughts, and then I try to do a page of a prompt, and if I feel that like I need to write more, if there's more there to explore, then I will. Most of the time, if it's a very simple prompt, I won't need to because I will be able to understand things quite fast if I write them down. Prompts are a really good guide if you want to center your attention on something. If your stream of consciousness wouldn't naturally kind of take you to, I don't know, your traumas. It allows you to dissect these more complicated thoughts that I think are very important to dissect, but you know, many of us don't spend our day-to-day or our just natural consciousness thinking about that, which is why I think the morning pages is not as effective. Anyway, with these prompts, basically pick the intriguing ones. Don't pick boring ones because then you won't want to write it, if that makes sense. Don't waste your time with those. Just find ones that you think are fun and engaging. Try to be smart and articulate when you write. You don't need to have a like incredibly Oscar Wilde flowery language, but try to be specific and write in full sentences. It doesn't need to be overly beautiful unless it calls for it to be, because your words and your sincerity is in and of itself beautiful because that's who you are. It's a record of yourself, and yourself is by nature inspiring because you have had so much happen to you, presumably, and it is admirable if you don't let that change how you write. You don't need to pretend to be someone else, basically, is what I'm saying. And even if that means that you would write naturally in a very flowery style, you shouldn't let the fear of that being embarrassing take away from your sincerity. You cannot let the cringe factor take that away from you, because again, I recommend not letting anyone read this and not looking back. I'm not talking about the next technique that I'm about to say, because that's actually made to be looked back on, but for my journal entries, most of the time I don't read them back until like, well, I am planning to read them back, but for like a while from now. I think you should make an effort to be intentionally yourself because it is inspiring to other people if you are, to be honest. You can write like a poet if you want because no one will read it unless you let them, or unless like your parents are assholes. Articulation and specificity basically allow for more accurate reflection, and on top of that, beautiful writing allows kind of your creative muscle to work, and it gives you inspiration about actual works of art that you can create. One technique that I've added recently is a commonplace book, which I'm gonna be honest, you can probably find a bunch of videos online about the history of this. I couldn't tell you. I could not tell you because I didn't remember it. I don't care. But it's basically, for me, it's a journal of everything. It's actually what my video notes are written in. Originally, I'm fairly sure it was for things that this one guy read and used to copy out passages or just ideas that he learned into this commonplace book to be able to reference it. And it's basically like your notes app, but just make it your book and you write everything down in there. I use mine as a dumping site for ideas and like things that I learn, and I plan in it often. I write lists. I often use my commonplace book for if I find a YouTube video that has like compelling ideas or a list of kind of self-improvement habits, or just like a video essay on some self-development topic. I'll write notes about it while I watch it and I'll go back to it, and I feel like that's helped me so much to be able to internalize these ideas. So I highly recommend doing that, especially with this video maybe. Please take notes on the things that you watch or the media you consume, the art you look at, because you will not remember it otherwise. You may be watching all these like self-improvement and like life hack tip videos, but if you're not taking notes, it will go in one ear and out the other, and you will have wasted your time not learning anything. And the commonplace book allows you to learn and to recall useful things, basically. And often also I found that for while I used to watch these videos, I used to watch them and I used to be like, oh my god, these are so great and I'm gonna be so productive the next day, and then I never implemented any of the things these people talked about because I forgot them instantly. And I don't know if it's because I have a shit brain, and it's helped me so much to actually take note of things that will better my life, and it's so stupid to think about, but it really does help. I do have this book be separate from my main journal, which I write in longhand, because I just feel like it would take up too much space and I would go through too many of these ones if I also had my like journal entries in there. I workshop ideas that I have, I write mind maps, I practice my Japanese in there. And it's basically a documentation of everything that you find interesting or necessary to remember. It's like a mini brain, basically. It's a mini memory bank. I tend to write down inspirations as well, like concepts or things that I saw or like art pieces. And in turn, I try to actually use these up very systematically. I go back and look at them and I try to create art with it. I try to analyze what aspects of that thing that I like, and then I'll try and use those aspects in my own work. I actually sometimes create like creativity exercises with these, and I can do a different video on a couple creativity exercises because I think they're really fun and just a way to get you to create without having had some stroke of inspiration. Oh, I forgot to mention, I can make a video on how to document your life without writing, because people make like video diaries, people do photography. I choose writing because writing is specific, and it is the most specific that you can get while still being a piece of art. Visual art and auditory art are up for interpretation, but writing is more often than not less so. It is the most specific that you can be, and therefore it is the one that will give you the most understanding of yourself. But you can take these ideas in, for instance, like a commonplace book, or even in your like normal journal, if they pop up there just in your mind, and you can take these ideas and you can create different types of art with it. It doesn't have to be writing. You can create photography, films, music, whatever you are called to do, really. Anyway, that's it from me. I will probably make more videos about, for instance, how to turn your inspiration into art actively. I can make videos about these creativity exercises that I've been coming up with, or like how to take notes, how to be intentional with your life. I have so many things that relate to this that I can talk about. I've reflected on them, and I do have opinions about these things, which I didn't think I did. In fact, actually, another thing, writing will give you opinions on things you never even thought about beforehand. It's great and I love it, and I'm not going to stop. Thank you for watching. Please subscribe if you'd like to see any of those videos or any related videos to this one, because I will probably be making them, because I've been wanting to get onto my YouTube grind set before I go to Japan finally. So please subscribe if you'd like to see that, or if you like me. I promise you won't have to look at my yellow hair for much longer. It'll be less yellow. Anyway, I love you.